violence is something that would not be tolerated.
Hey guys, check this out.
What is it?
Is someone in?
Why did Thurston County choose this specific location? The county has property near the Thurston County Jail and Juvenile Detention Center. Why not just use that property instead? And you're on mute, Tom. Kaylee.
All right, I apologize. I was on mute. I was planning to close out the previous video that was playing. So thanks for that question. So we have looked at many sites, alternative sites to place these vehicles. So under the Regional Housing Council, we looked at over 200 local government-owned properties throughout the county for their appropriateness for safe parking and other affordable housing or homeless services activities. And this included looking at the county-owned properties near the Thurston County Jail and Detention Center. We do recognize that no site is perfect, and any proposed location will face opposition. The Martin Way and Company Road site was chosen because it's the only viable site that can be reasonably used for this purpose in a cost-effective and time-sensitive manner. The benefits of the site are that it doesn't require any site prep work. It's near a bus line and other services. The site is completely fenced, and the vegetation surrounding the site offers some natural screening of the property. Also, the site is not currently in use for other purposes. We did look at, in looking at the county jail and detention center, we determined they were not viable for multiple reasons, including that both sites would require substantial site preparation time and funding to address stormwater issues, grading, removal of shrubs and bushes, adding lighting and fencing, as well as obtaining applicable permits for those activities. In addition, the location near active detention facilities would negatively impact the operations of those facilities, including impacting use of an access road by detention center staff used to transport juveniles in custody.
Thank you, Tom. We've also been asked, why not use the old Olympia City Hall? And perhaps City Manager Bernie may want to weigh in on this one. And you're on mute, sir.
Sorry, thank you. I clicked it, just didn't unclick for me. Similar to the answer that Tom gave, the City Hall site is our Justice Center, and it is an active site with active users, and those parking lots and those spaces are actively used during the day by employees and by visitors to the Justice Center.
How is this site being funded, and how much will it cost?
So the site is being funded, or this project will be funded by a couple different sources. One is Providence Hospital has generously donated $100,000 or provided a grant of $100,000 to help offset those costs. We're still working on the final budget, but right now we're estimating the total cost to operate the site for 6 months is approximately $400,000 to $450,000. The largest cost of that will be staffing for 24/7 staffing to be provided for those 6 months. But this also includes funding for hygiene, potable water, and garbage services. There will be no site improvements to the property outside of those needed to comply with the fire code, such as some signage. And the county portion of those funds will be paid for out of the county's one-time American Rescue Plan Act funding.
So if crime does increase in this area, how will the Thurston County Sheriff's Office support the community and business members?
Thanks, Shelley. The number one priority for the Sheriff's Office is public safety. That's the safety of our residents, businesses, community members, and the residents of the proposed RV encampment. The Sheriff's Office will respond to calls and complaints in accordance with our office policies. Our response will be based on priority of the calls and the availability of our personnel. We will monitor the activities and calls of service and adjust our response accordingly.
What rules do people have to follow to be in this site, and what happens if they don't follow the rules?
obviously working to ensure the safety of everyone living at the site, as well as others who might be impacted, is of the utmost important to us, and community agreements and accountability are important parts of that. So as I previously mentioned, in order to become eligible to be able to move to the new site, all prospective residents will need to sign a code of conduct and will be expected to abide by that code of conduct agreement for the duration of their stay. The code of conduct is made up of 5 agreements, and those agreements are to keep personal spaces clean and tidy. Use of any illicit drug or substance on site is prohibited. People will be required to use the appropriate restroom facilities. So essentially, if their personal restroom facilities are unable to be appropriately pumped or dumped, then they will be expected to use the designated facilities on site. Also, there will be the expectation that people respect the space, each other, the belongings of others in the neighborhood. So no theft, no destruction of property, not disturbing the neighbors, etc. And of course, violence is something that would not be tolerated. I'll also add that residents with pets or animals will be expected to ensure that their animals are under control at all times, and there will be a designated area for pets to relieve themselves, and expectations around owners managing animal waste. As for accountability measures, so specific accountability measures in response to rule violations will vary depending on the rule that was violated, the severity, and the frequency of the violations. But for example, the accountability measures could range from signing a behavior agreement or action plan, loss of specific privileges, up to, of course, expulsion from the site. And again, safety really is the highest priority for us, and we see community agreements and accountability as a really critical part of that, and especially having accountability measures that are consistent, just, reasonable, and effective.
How will sanitation and hygiene be handled at this site?
With our scattered site pilot program, we have a memorandum of understanding, I believe, or an ILA between the City of Olympia and our office to provide hygiene services and solid waste removal. And so that will be extended to this site. And so there will be 2 7-yard dumpsters that are on the site that will be for solid waste. Any solid waste on site will be collected there and will be removed as needed, hopefully no more than twice a week, but will be removed as needed. There will be portable toilets, including an ADA accessible toilet on site for the residents to use, and those will also be serviced on a regular basis. We will have potable water on site. The potable water will be provided by the City of Olympia. They have potable water at their neighboring or adjacent property. And so we'll have a water truck with hopefully a 500-gallon water tank that will be delivered down to the site for residents to use and have access to in terms of potable water. We, as Ty had mentioned, there is an agreement that if they do not, and it's in the code of conduct, that if their vehicle is not operational in the ways of being able to, if their septic tank is not operable, they will agree to use the appropriate toilets that will be provided and then serviced, as well as if they have a vehicle that's operational and and their septic is operational, then they can use their own individual toilet facilities in their vehicle, and we'll be taking those down to the lot to get them serviced as needed. So a lot of that is our continued partnership with City of Olympia and the Scattered Site Pilot Project.
How will the City of Olympia ensure that no one just moves back onto Ensign Road after we move these campers out? And how will the City of Olympia be enforcing these parking rules?
I'm going to share my screen actually to show a map of the area that we're talking about. I hope everybody can see that. The area that we're talking about where our regionally moved is from Providence Lane up to Lily Road. We will be installing new no parking signage all along both sides of the road between Providence Lane and Ensign. And we're also planning to install a barrier along the way so that vehicles cannot park there. In addition to that, we are going to be diligent with our parking enforcement team, our homeless response team and coordinators, and our rapid response team to be monitoring this area on a regular basis to make sure that it does not get reestablished with additional RVs. But our intention is to put a barrier up here that would prevent that from happening.
Can you tell us what the timeline is for this project?
In terms of timing, as Shelley indicated earlier, Thurston County has submitted an application under our emergency housing ordinance to the Community Planning and Economic Development. That was submitted on October 25th. This public meeting was actually rescheduled to be in compliance with the emergency housing ordinance, which requires this information meeting to be held within 10 days of that application submission. CPED has 28 days to review that application, although an actual decision may be a few days before or after that 28-day period. So we are looking for a move-in date, as was indicated in the video, of around mid-December. I'll also mention the county has drafted a memorandum of understanding with the City of Olympia, outlining the plan to address the vehicles on Ensign Road. And the Board of County Commissioners has delayed taking a vote on whether to sign that MOU until next Tuesday after this public information meeting. So for the Martin Lane Company Road site, in addition to the application, there needs to be some hiring of staff and other logistics that need to happen before the actual move-in. So if the application is approved, the temporary permit will allow the site to be occupied or operated for 6 months. Any extension beyond the 6-month time frame requires additional project review and approvals. I also want to, at this time, kind of mention we've also had some questions about recent activity on the site. We've been in contact with Public Works, who's informed us that there has been minor maintenance work done on the property recently to ensure stormwater flow drains properly to the stormwater pond on the site. And that this work was needed to be done and is not related to the RV parking plan. The second phase of the project that was mentioned in the video involves a joint effort between the county and City of Olympia to purchase a piece of property in Olympia for a long-term temporary solution for up to 50 vehicles. And so that would be for up to a 3-year period. So we're anticipating purchasing that property and preparing that site for vehicles to be completed around June or July of 2022. We can't guarantee or promise that this project will not be extended for a few months beyond that 6-month time frame, but this is the time frame the jurisdictions have committed to strive to achieve in their MOU. There is no intention to move additional vehicles to the Martin Lane Company Road site after this first phase of the plan is complete. And any future use of the property will need to go through the applicable permitting process before any new activity can occur.
What stops you from, or the county, from moving a new group of people to this Carpenter Road site after this group moves to a Franz Anderson site or another location?
So one of the key things is what we're applying for is a temporary use permit of the Martin Lane Company Road site. So the permit will only allow us for 6 months. So any future use, as I indicated earlier, would need to be a completely separate process, and there would need to be an application process to Community Planning and Economic Development and through the county. So we are only requiring or asking for a temporary use permit for 6 months. Anything beyond that would need to go through a whole new and entirely different permitting process.
Can you please explain what the next steps are in this process?
The application was submitted on the 25th of October. We did submit an updated site plan on the 29th of October. So that may extend the review time. But at this point, all of the work that has gone into collaborating with the City of Olympia, talking with the Regional Housing Council tech team, which includes staff members from Lacey and Tumwater, City of Olympia, and the county, and talking with, making plans with Olympia Mutual Aid Partner around their code of conduct and their operation and safety plan. It's in the hands of Community Planning and Economic Development. So it's in active review at this point, and we anticipate hearing whether it's approved or denied by the end of the 28 to 30 day time period, and then we will go from there. We are just kind of in a holding pattern to see how that application approval process goes. We did everything we could to ensure that code line by line was addressed specifically. Every T was crossed and I dotted to the best of our ability to ensure that we were meeting the the code and the ordinance requirements for this application. So at this point, this is our first round. One of our first milestones was just getting the application in. Our next most important was having this public information meeting, and now we wait for that approval or denial.
That's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a nice day.